Have you ever tried to print out your variables on separate lines, but everything just ends up squished together on one? Well, that's because in C++, cout doesn't automatically move to the next line. You have to tell it to. In this video, I'm going to show you how to fix that when you print out your variables. Hey everyone, I'm Sophia. I'm a certified computer science tutor here to help you understand C++. Now, in the last video, we covered what a variable is, the difference between declaration and initialization, and good practices when it comes to naming variables. Now, over the next 3 videos, we are going to be learning how to print our variables, using variables in arithmetic operations, using string functions, and more. I also create a free PDF cheat sheet that goes along with everything in this video. So if you want to follow along or review later, the link is down below in the description. Most of this video will be coding, so if you don't have a coding environment set up yet, you can use an online compiler instead. Here are some examples of places you can go to use an online compiler. If you do want to set up something locally, I personally use Visual Studio Code, but here are some other options as well. Alright, so in the last video we went over this line. Int variable name equals 10, and all of the different parts that are associated with this line. In this video, we are going to learn how to actually use this variable now that we've created it. So one of the most basic ways you can use a variable is in a print statement, which looks like this. Now, if this looks completely foreign to you, don't worry. We are going to go over all of the different parts of this line. But before we do that, I want to run this program so that you can see what the output is. To run this program, I'm going to save it, come up here to this drop box, and click Run Code. And the only thing that prints out is the number 10, which, as we can see, my variable name is currently storing the value of 10. Now, if I change this value of 10 to the number 20, save it, and rerun the code, the only thing that prints out now is the value of 20. So now we know the only thing this program does, specifically the only thing that this line does, is print out the current value that variable name is storing. Now you might ask why this line is not printing out in the output. Well, this line is called a comment. A comment is ignored by the compiler. It's designed to leave notes or temporarily disable code without deleting it. The other thing I want to mention is what this hashtag include iostream is at the top of your program. iostream stands for input output stream. It gives your program access to tools that lets it send and receive information through the console. So when we're sending information out to the console, that's output. I can do that in forms of print statements. And when I get information in from the user, that's input. With that being said, now it's time to go over all of the different parts of our print statement. The first thing we're going over is std::cout. Cout stands for character output. It's the standard console output stream that we use to send text and values to the console. But cout lives inside of std, which stands for standard. Think of it like a file in a folder on your computer. In order to open this specific file, we have to open that folder first. Now, standard is what's called a namespace. A namespace is a feature in C++ that helps you organize code by grouping related items together and avoiding any naming conflicts. Namespaces exist because as your programs or your projects get bigger with more files, it's possible for some things to accidentally get named the same thing. So by putting them in separate namespaces, you can avoid these naming conflicts. But the standard namespace is automatic. It's built into C++ and it contains all of the common tools that come with the language. Things like cout, cin, endl, string, vector, and even functions like sort once you include other libraries. And then the last thing in this section are the 2 colons. These 2 colons are called the scope resolution operator. This is just a fancy way to say go look inside of this namespace to find the thing that I want to use. So when I write std::cout, I'm saying go look inside of the standard namespace and use cout. The next thing in the original line is the 2 less than signs. These 2 less than signs are called the insertion operator. It's used to send data to the output stream, which is then sent to the console. So anything that comes immediately after the insertion operator gets sent to the console to be printed out. And then after that is the variable. Because the variable comes right after the insertion operator, it will send the value being stored in the variable to the output stream. And then finally is just the semicolon, which always goes on the end of each line in C++. Now that we've gone over all of the different parts to this line, let's go over some examples. This is the line that we just went over, and as we saw before, it prints out the current value that variable name is storing. Let's create a second variable now. This time it'll be a char data type. My variable name will be letter, and I'll store a capital A. Then to print it out, I'll access my standard namespace, use cout and insertion operator, and then the variable I want to print out, letter. I'll save it and run the code. But when it prints out, you'll notice that both outputs print on the same line. Now, why is this? Well, cout doesn't automatically move to the next line after printing something. It just continues on the same line. If you want your next output to be on a different line from your previous output, you have to tell it to do so. You can do this with something called endl. It's similar to pressing enter on your keyboard when you're typing in a document. It'll move your cursor to the next line so your next output will appear on a different line from your previous output. To use it, I'll come up to my previous output, do another insertion operator, access the standard namespace, and type endl. Now when I save it and rerun the code, you can see that both outputs are now printing on two separate lines. Now, what if I want to print both text and a variable on the same line? Well, that's possible too. Let's go over that example. First, I want to temporarily disable this code by turning it into a comment, just so that we can focus on our next example. Now, a single line comment is 2 forward slashes, which is what this line is up here. It's only a single line. But if you have multiple lines that need to be commented, you can do it by doing a forward slash and an asterisk at the start, and then at the end, it'll be an asterisk and a forward slash. This is a multi-line comment. Or a second way you can do it is highlighting the section of code that you want to comment out. And on Windows, it'll be Control / and on Macs, it'll be Command /. This is another way that you can comment out a chunk of code. Now let's do the example where we print both text and a variable on the same line. So I'll write a comment here that says printing both text and a variable on the same line. Let's use an already established variable. Let's use letter. To start off, I'll access my standard namespace and type cout and then an insertion operator. And let's start with text first. I'll say my letter is. Now, this text is in double quotation marks because it is a string literal. A string literal is hard-coded into your program. It's a fixed piece of data that can't be changed. So in this case, it'll print out exactly as I type it. Now let's do another insertion operator and the variable I want to print, which is letter. Another insertion operator so that I can do my end line, which is accessing that standard namespace too. I'll end it with a semicolon, save it, and run it. And there we go. That's my line. Now you'll notice I did something else in that text portion. I added an extra space here. I did this manually for formatting purposes when it prints out. If I don't have this space here, it'll print out the exact same words in the exact same order, but the only difference is that there'll be no space there. So for formatting purposes, I like to put a space so that it looks a little nicer when it prints out. Now, what if I want to print multiple variables on the same line? Let's go over that example. Once again, I'll make this a comment so that we can focus on our new example. Let's write example, printing multiple variables. This time, let's create 2 new variables. I'll do 2 integer variables. Let's call them 5 and 10, storing the numbers 5 and 10. Then I'll do accessing my standard namespace, cout, insertion operator, and say my numbers are, once again, text is in double quotation marks, an insertion operator, my first variable 5, and let's put text in between. Let's say and 10, and then end it with a new line. Once again, I am putting spaces here, here, and here. This is for formatting purposes. I am manually inserting spaces into my text portion. All right, so let's save it and run the code. And there's my line that has both text and multiple variables. And that's everything we're covering in this video. In the next video, we're going to be learning about variables with arithmetic operations. My email is down below if you'd like to reach out with any questions. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.